Hey, hello friends, it's Diana McAlintal.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick Wagner. We're with Team RCIA and this is our weekly Facebook Live. We come to you every week at this time, 11 o'clock Pacific, to talk about some obscure RCIA issue that you may or may not be having.
Issue, we have no issues here. Issues. No, we don't have any issues. First off, we're going to give you a free gift. So we don't forget, we're going to do that right now. You want to tell them what this is?
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about baptized candidates and how we deal with them in our process. And
we don't deal with them.
What do we do?
We assist them.
Okay, how we assist them in our processes. And so to help you with that, the free resource we're going to give you is an alternative rite of welcome. This is a simpler rite of welcome than you'll find in the RCI text. And it's I wrote it, I designed it more for baptized catechized candidates. As we're going to talk about, the ritual text deals in the RCI text, deals with, it assumes that the candidates are uncatechized and therefore a little more like catechumens in their formation process. A lot of our candidates really aren't like catechumens. They've been living as Christians for quite a while. And so this ritual is more of a sort of a blessing and a welcoming. It's not quite so elaborate and involved as the rite of welcome in the RCIA.
So the whole reason we're making such a big deal about this is because this really is about love the scary ghost. This is about the dignity of baptism. And so the rite of Christian initiation, as you all know, is primarily for those who are unbaptized, those who have never yet been submerged in the baptismal waters. But I know that for most of us, as you said, the people who come to us are already baptized. So how do we honor their baptism as well as attend to their specific catechetical formation needs, which everyone will be different. Some people will need much more formation, some will need very minimal formation. So what Nick gave you there is for those who really are already baptized, one, and two, really have received a lot of formation, are already living the Christian life, and we really should not be putting them through the rituals of this book here, all right?
Okay, so if that's something you want to talk about, if you kind of like that topic, if you do me a favor and hit the like button or one of the reaction buttons there, what that does is it sort of sends out good vibes into the Facebook universe to tell them that we're live, and more people will know that we're talking right now, and perhaps we'll be able to share in some of the information that we're sharing with. So thanks for helping us with that.
I love it.
So let's kind of talk. I just want to mention kind of sort of 3 or 4 different groups of types of seekers who show up. First of all, we get the pure, unbaptized, uncatechized seeker who's on a path to become a catechumen. And that person, at least in my experience, is the rarest of that. We don't see many of those folks, although they're out there. I think we don't do enough work in evangelization to go find those people.
But these are those who are not baptized,
right,
who have never really been in any kind of relationship with any kind of Christian tradition, experience, encounter, no formation or what. So these are people who really have had some event of evangelization. The Holy Spirit, through some Christian, moved them to seek out a deeper relationship with Christ through a church.
And then we have another somewhat rare animal called the unbaptized catechized person. And I've encountered 1 or 2 of these in my experience in ministry.
Can I tell them my story?
And these are, sure.
So my story of the rare animal called the unbaptized catechized, in a parish that I was a music director at, we had George. George played guitar. Every time I tell this story, I have to playing guitar. Like George, he played guitar. He and his wife were members of the parish council. They organized the parish fiesta every year. They had 3 daughters who were all altar servers. They were just great Catholics. And then one day after Mass, George comes and tells me, he says, "Diana, I think it's time that I should get baptized." And I'm thinking, what? George, you are just the best Catholic ever. I can't believe you have never been baptized. So his formation, even though he still had to go through all of the rituals for those who are unbaptized, his catechetical formation really was very minimal, because he had already been living in a relationship with the Christian community and really living the disciplines of what it means to be Christian.
So then on the scale of most rare to least rare, then the next person is someone who is baptized but completely uncatechized. And what the Rite says in paragraph 400 is, this is a person who was baptized as an infant and got no further Christian formation. So they didn't get First Communion, or if they grew up in a Protestant tradition, they didn't go to Vacation Bible School, or they had really no formation at all after their baptism as an infant. And the second half of the RCIA, the rites for the baptized candidates, really is talking about that person, yes, the person who's completely uncatechized. And then the fourth person, and this person is I think the most common individual that we have by far in our RCIA processes, and that is someone who's baptized and at least a little bit catechized, a little bit formed. And
oftentimes very
formed. Yeah. So these would be Lutherans and Methodists and Baptists who are married to Catholics.
Or even Catholics.
And yes, also Catholics who didn't, maybe they dropped out at First Communion time and they really didn't get any formation past that. This would be somebody in a Protestant tradition who sort of had childhood level catechesis and then dropped out, and now they want to become Catholic for some reason. So we get, within that fourth group, there's a wide variety of formation experiences, but the thing that they all have in common is that they have had some formation in Christian life. They've had and have some relationship with Jesus Christ, and that makes them radically different than any of the other first three people that we were talking about.
So just to summarize this part of our chat, go back through the list of all of the seekers that you have in your parish right now, those people who are either seeking baptism or those who are seeking to, quote unquote, complete their initiation or be received. So look at first, determine, is the person baptized or unbaptized? That's your first determination. And then the second discernment you need to make is, has this person had any kind of formation already in their life, even if it was very minimal, even if it was just going to Catholic school? That is considered some kind of formation because the Spirit works. Or have they really had no formation at all? So the first part, those with some formation and some with very much formation, they're catechized. Their process, even though they might not have celebrated confirmation or Eucharist yet, their process will be different than those who are baptized uncatechized.
Okay. And so then what we want to look for in those baptized, we're going to call them catechized. I know you're thinking, I'm thinking of Alice, and she is totally not catechized. But she celebrated First Communion when she was 7. But since then, she hasn't been going to church or so on. And so you're thinking she's not catechized because she's not well catechized. She doesn't have an adult level of faith formation. All that's true, but she has, somebody considered her catechized enough at some point in her life to celebrate First Communion. So when I say catechized, what Diane and I are talking about with that term there, and this is the way the Rite understands it as well. They've had at least some minimal formation, and they're in that fourth group. They're in that radically different group than everybody else, and that's the group we want to talk about today. So when we're welcoming those folks into a faith formation process, there, as I said, within that fourth group, there's still a wide range of catechesis. So they're going to be at all different levels within that group, and some will need more and some will need less formation in order to be received into full communion or complete their sacraments of initiation if they're a baptized Catholic. What we want to do with them is some sort of a public welcome that they're starting this process, and that's what that free alternative rite of welcome is for you. Now, you don't need to use that one. I've done this before. We had a guy who was very well catechized as an evangelical Christian. He knew lots of scripture. He knew Jesus. He knew the Lord's Prayer. He was doing mission work with our parish. And everybody in the parish kind of knew him already. So we didn't do a big elaborate welcome ritual with him. It would have seemed weird because he was already kind of part of the parish. What we did basically on a Sunday, we stood him up and Father prayed a simple blessing over him and announced that he was beginning a process of becoming Catholic, and we all applauded. Very simple. I don't think it was even 5 minutes. But that's the kind of what mindset or attitude we want to bring to these baptized, catechized folks when we're dealing with them.
And then in terms of formation for them, what kind of catechesis you would do with them, you have to do a bit more discernment. The 4 areas of discipleship for Christians are, as you know from paragraph 75, word. Do they live the living word of God in their life? So do they pray with scriptures? Do they sit and discern what the scriptures mean for them? And most of all, do they try to live that out in their daily actions? Second, are they part of the Christian community? Do they participate in the activities of Christians? Do they know the Christians in your parish community? Are they learning how to forgive and give of themselves in sacrificial living for the other, which is exactly what Christians do? Third area of discipleship is worship. Are they praying with the Christian community? Are they participating fully in Sunday Eucharist? Even though they might not yet be able to share in communion, if they haven't yet celebrated communion, they still have the responsibility and the duty of praying the Eucharistic prayer, the creed, the prayers of the faithful. Are they participating actively in the Sunday gathering and in daily prayer? Lastly, the 4th area of discipleship, apostolic witness. Are they going out to the margins? Are they being ambassadors of the gospel out to those who are most in need of it by their actions, by their deeds, by their words? Are they doing this with other Christians?
And so to summarize, those 4 areas are they living as people of the Word, as living in relationship with the divine Logos, the living Christ as Word? Are they living in Christian community, or do they have some association with the Christian community? Third, do they have an active prayer and worship life, and particularly are they participating in Sunday Mass every week? And finally, apostolic witness or service, especially to those on the peripheries, those 4 markers of discipleship. Those are found in RCIA paragraph 75, and these are the 4 markers we're looking to train the catechumens in. When we say training in Christian life, we're training the catechumens to live as disciples in these 4 ways. If we're dealing with baptized, catechized folks, they're already living as disciples in those 4 ways. Again, maybe not in an adult level, maybe not as effective in some as in others, or maybe very, very well in all 4 areas. But those are the 4 areas you're going to look at. Here's the key difference of formation for the catechumens in those 4 areas and baptized people in those 4 areas. When we're dealing with baptized people, we're saying that their catechesis is always, always, always post-baptismal. And that's a word, post-baptismal, that we associate with the period of mystagogy. And it's the distinction is, the thing we have to understand is that by their baptism, they are already in the household of God. They are already disciples of Christ. We're not going to make them into disciples. By their baptism, that's already happened. So with a post-baptismal catechesis, it's sort of an always looking back, a remembering of baptism, a recalling of baptism, and emphasizing all the ways in the lives of the baptized candidates where they're already living out these values, and how they can use that experience of, kind of having done that, use that experience, the post-baptismal experience, to say, how can we live into our baptism even more fully, even better, which is the catechesis that all of us are engaged in.
Exactly. So those who are baptized, catechized, probably should not be participating in the kinds of catechesis that you're providing your catechumens. You should be looking in your parish, how do you form adults to begin with? What are the adult faith formation opportunities that your parish already provides for parishioners just like you? If your answer is not much, then maybe that is a challenge for your parish community to start looking at how are we forming adult Christians into a mature adult faith, along with these baptized candidates who are catechized already and simply need to touch up a little bit on some areas of discipleship. Maybe some of them just have some issues about Catholicism and some aspects of the Catholic faith, but they are certainly not in need of a full catechumenal style formation for which unbaptized, uncatechized persons do need that.
And so what we're looking for here in these 4 areas of Christian discipleship, we're looking for behavior, not so much knowledge. We need, the knowledge supplements our behavior, but the knowledge is at service of us living as disciples. So we're looking for visible manifestations of a Christian life. And once we see what we would consider adult behavior, mature behavior in each of those 4 areas, then that person is ready to be received into full communion, or if they're baptized Catholic, we refer to it as completing their sacraments of initiation. And that would take place at the next available Sunday, at a Sunday in ordinary time usually, and not at the Easter Vigil. The Easter Vigil is really the place for baptism. So those who are already baptized, and this is in the RCIA itself, although a lot of us don't really pay attention to that part, but it's very clear in the RCIA that those who are already baptized would be received into full communion at an ordinary Sunday Mass. And the ritual, compared to the Easter Vigil, would be much simpler than what we would do at the Easter Vigil. Yeah. And that's important. You might think we're not giving them enough, but really that's a recognition, honoring of their baptism, that they're more like us than that they're like catechumens. Yeah. When we receive baptized candidates into full communion at the Easter Vigil, we're saying they're more like catechumens than like the baptized folks, and that's not true. We want to create an image for our parish that these folks who are joining us really have already been part of us since the time of their baptism.
So if you have a Protestant person in your community who is seeking to be received into the Catholic communion right now, and they have shown a maturity in those 4 areas of discipleship, do not wait until Easter Vigil 2018 to receive them. You're actually going against what the church is asking you to do. Look at your church calendar right now for the fall to see what Sunday can we receive this person into the Catholic communion so that this person can be one with us at the table as soon as possible. That is a much more pastoral choice to make.
And you're probably, if you really dive into this the way the rite envisions, you're probably going to be celebrating this rite of reception of full communion at several times throughout the year, because as I said, in that 4th group, people are at all different levels of formation. So some are going to take longer than others to reach that mature level of Christian discipleship. So those that are ready sooner, they would be received sooner, and those that are ready later, we would be assessing and discerning with them as we go along, and they would be received later.
And the same thing for any baptized Catholics who are only preparing for confirmation. I know a lot of our RCIA processes have these kinds of candidates in them. These are adults who, for whatever reason, just missed confirmation, and now they're preparing to do that. They really are not part of the RCIA. They are part of the rite of confirmation, and they should not celebrate their confirmation at the Easter Vigil either. You're probably saying, well, if we got rid of all of the Protestants and all of the Catholics who need to be confirmed, we got rid of them for the Easter Vigil, we won't have anybody. Well, then that is our call to step up and evangelize so that people can be hearing the good news and responding to it and being called to baptism.
Yeah, it's a little deceptive, really. If we have 30 Protestants and being received into full communion, say 10 Catholics getting confirmation, 1 person getting baptized at the Easter Vigil, to the parish, it looks like we're doing a really great job of evangelizing, and really not, so there's only 1 person there really that was brought to Christ who hadn't been brought to Christ before.
Because,
and there is such a great need in the world. It's not that there aren't people out there who don't know Jesus. It's just that we have been sort of relying on basically marriage as a way of getting folks into the Catholic Church. And that's sort of going away now. That trend is shifting. And so we need to get much better about evangelization. A clear way to sort of light a fire into the parish is to say, well, we only have one person or no people for baptism this year at the Easter Vigil.
And then the very last thing that we want to talk about is dismissal. The catechumens are dismissed from the Eucharist because they are not yet part of the order of the faithful. The order of the faithful are those who have been baptized, and they are the ones who have the responsibility of praying the prayers of the faithful. So those candidates who are already baptized, even if they are uncatechized, and especially if they are catechized, they must remain in the Eucharist. They cannot be dismissed because they still have the duty of praying the creed, the prayers of the faithful, the general intercessions, and the Eucharistic prayer. So if you are practicing dismissal of baptized candidates, just stop. That's all. Just don't do it. It's not in the right.
Okay, everyone. Well, that's all the time we have. And we want to thank you for spending this time with us. Please let your friends and family know that we're going to be back here next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. For another Facebook Live.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you download that free gift for you. We prepared it just for you. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.